Today we are reading Chapter 4 from A Horn for Louie. Chapter 4 The Pawn Shop. Alex stopped the wagon in front of a pawn shop. It was on the corner of Rampart and Perdido streets. Louie got down from the wagon and walked up to the window. He looked inside. "Do you see anything you like?" Alex asked. Louie saw guitars, trombones, and clarinets hanging in the window. He saw saxophones, violins, and banjos, and one trumpet. The trumpet looked brand new, its polished brass shine. Louie stood on tiptoe. He pressed his nose against the window. The trumpet was the most beautiful horn Louie had ever seen. Then he looked at the price tag. $25. Louie's shoulders sagged. He looked at the silver dollar in his hand. That trumpet might as well have been made of gold. It cost a lot more money than he had. It cost more money than he had ever seen in his life. Louie turned back towards the wagon. "Where are you going?" Alex asked. "Back to the junkyard," Louie said. "That horn cost too much money. I couldn't even dream enough money to buy it." "Don't give up," said Alex. "We just started looking. There must be thousands of horns in New Orleans. Who knows? Maybe we can talk to the pawn shop man. He might be willing to bargain. He might have another horn you can buy. Let's go in and have a look around. Looking around doesn't cost anything." Louie and Alex tied Rosie's reins to a street lamp. They walked into the pawn shop together. "We were looking at that trumpet in the window," Alex said to the man behind the counter. "How much do you want for it?" $25, like the price tag says. "It's a real good buy," the man answered. "That horn used to belong to a fellow who played with King Oliver. He fell on hard times and had to sell his horn. Bad luck for him. Good luck for you. Would you like to play it? See how it sounds?" "Not me," said Alex. "I can't play the horn. I can't even sing. I couldn't carry a tune if you put it in my wagon. But I bet my partner Louie can play any tune you'd like. How about letting him try?" The man made a sour face. He went to the store's front window and took out the gleaming horn. He replaced the mouthpiece with one he kept on a shelf. Louie and Alex both knew why he did that. White people wouldn't buy a horn that a black person's lips had touched. How well he couldn't play didn't matter. Louie felt ashamed, and so did Alex. But they didn't say anything. They wanted a horn. Louie lifted the trumpet to his mouth. He pressed the mouthpiece against his lips. He pressed the valves up and down. Louie wasn't sure how to use them, but he knew he could figure it out. Louie blew. The sound that came out of the horn surprised him. It was clear and bright, loud and warm at the same time. "Wow," said Louie. "Keep playing," Alex said. "Show the man what you can do." Louie began to play, getting the hang of the valves as he went along. He played Home Sweet Home to start. Then he played a fast tune, Salty Dog. The pawn shop's man's foot began tapping. He smiled. "That kid is good," he told Alex. "Sure he is. That's why we're looking for a real horn for him. He's been blowing on a tin horn long enough. If he had a real horn, he'd be good enough to play with King Oliver." "Maybe I can help him," the pawn shop man said. "I'll let the boy have the horn for $15. "That's real kind of you, but $15 is still more than we can pay," Alex told him. He turned to Louie. "Give the man his horn. We need to go back to the junkyard." It broke Louie's heart to hand over that beautiful horn, but he had no choice. He didn't even have $15. Even if he had, he couldn't spend that much money on himself when his family needed so many things. Louie's shoulders slumped as he headed for the door. "Wait a minute," the pawn shop man said. "That kid sure can play. I agree with you. He needs a real horn. I'd like to help him out. How much money do you have?" Louie was about to say $1 when he felt Alex's elbow jab him in the arm. Louie knew what that meant. It meant, "Be quiet and let me do the talking." "Not much," Alex said. "Maybe we could go as high as $5. I know you don't have a horn that cheap. Thanks for letting us look, and thanks for letting Louie try out that trumpet." Alex turned to open the door. "Hold on," the pawn shop man said. "Let me see what I can do." Louie and Alex waited while the man went into the back room. They heard rattling and scraping as a man moved boxes and barrels. At last he found what he was looking for. "How about this?" the man said. It's a B-flat cornet. He put the battered horn on the counter in front of Louis. The horn was so old the brass had turned green. There were spider webs in the bell. The valves squeaked when Louis pressed them. The poor old horn was scratched and dented from one end to the other. It looked like it had been thrown in the trash. Alex looked at Louis. What do you think? Louis shook his head. He didn't want this horn. It's just a piece of junk. It belonged in the back of the junk wagon with the bottles and tin cans. Thanks, mister, Louis told the man. I'll keep looking. Wait just a minute, the pawnshop man said. I know what you're thinking. You think that if a horn looks like a piece of junk, that's what it must be. You're wrong. I've been in the business 30 years. I've seen all kind of people come in here with all kind of horns. Trumpets, cornets, tubas, saxophones. What a horn looks like doesn't matter. You can polish the brass. You can oil the valves. You can dust the cobwebs. All that counts is the sound that comes out. Give the horn a chance. Hear how it plays before you make up your mind. He's right, Louis, said Alex. Give the horn a chance. What do we have to lose? Maybe you'll like it. The pawnshop man wiped off the dust and cobwebs with his handkerchief. He squirted oil into the valves and moved them up and down until they stopped squeaking. He took off the old mouthpiece and put a clean one on it. Then he handed the cornet to Louis. Louis began to play. He started with After the Ball, then switched to The Saints, the most famous song in New Orleans. Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, the old horn played beautifully. Louis could slide from one note to another without any trouble at all. It was as if he and the old cornet were singing together. Oh, Lord, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. What did I tell you? The pawnshop man told Alex. Don't go by looks. That kid and that horn were made for each other. Give them a little time to practice on it, and I wouldn't be surprised if King Oliver himself stops to listen. King Oliver? Did the pawnshop man really think he was that good? Louis held the cornet tight. He didn't want to let go of it. It might be old and beat up, but Louis knew he had to have this horn. He had to. $8 and it's yours, said the pawnshop man. I'll throw in a new mouthpiece. Only $8 and you take it away with you. What do you say? Alex glanced at Louis from the corner of his eye. Louis knew what that meant. Don't say a word. Louis put the horn back on the counter. He held it for an extra moment. The blackened greenish brass felt warm to his touch. He turned to the door. Wait outside with Rosie, Alex said. I'll be along in a minute. Goodbye, horn, Louis whispered to himself as he stepped into the street. And that is the end of chapter 4.